The Badab War, one of the greatest narratives in the modern 40k setting, with more than 15 Space Marine chapters participating, and with the new Huron Blackheart release, it's back in conversation, and my local Warhammer store is having a Badab War event. In this event, the Loyalist and Renegade chapters of the Badab War will be facing off in kill team matches. As such, I will be participating by kitbashing my favourite chapter from the Badab War, the Mantis Warriors. These guys were the underdogs of the Badab War, White Scar successors favouring ambush and guerrilla tactics. These guys are so cool, but I'll go more into their lore later. For the squad rules, I'll be using the Angels of Death kill team. A bit generic, but I like the data card options you can choose. Speaking of, my team will consist of a captain, an Assault Intercessor Grenadier, an Intercessor Gunner, a regular Assault Intercessor, a regular Intercessor, and 2 special units that I will use interchangeably, depending on what I need for the game. One is a sniper and the other is a heavy gunner. It's unfortunate the rules won't let me take both in one game, but oh well, I can just use them when it's necessary. Alright, now let's get this started. I opened the tactical squad box, pulling out all of the sprues, and I have to say, this is probably my favourite Space Marine kit. It's so modifiable and has so many options. The whole design principle of these squat marines is so good, something I wish the modern Primaris kits would lean into a bit more. This kit also helps retain the period accuracy I'm going for, but I'm hoping to remove their squat posture and short appearance. I'm starting with the sniper, so the first thing that comes to mind is the sleek stealth of Mark 6 armor. So instead I chose Mark 4 legs. I just like the knee pads, and there's only one set of these. I snip the legs off and these mold lines disappear so easily. It's refreshing to just scrape these off with no need to keep going back and digging into the model. Speaking of backs, I want this guy to have a cape, so I grab a few and set them on the table for later. Next, I snip off a Mark 6 torso, cleaning it up and putting it together. Now for the sniper. I grab it from the Scout Squad kit. I'm going to use this kit a lot during this video as it has period accurate weaponry, but also the fabric and leather in place of armor will help reinforce the fact these guys are guerrilla warrior underdogs, making do with what they have. The sniper took a lot of cleanup due to its more pronounced mold lines, but after that I stuck the torso and legs together, then stuck the sniper arm on. Next I clipped his scout arm with an Auspex scanner off and stuck it on. The sniper veteran will have his gun resting downwards as he checks the Auspex for hostiles. Time for the branded shoulder pad. I got these Mantis Warrior logo shoulder pads from popgoesthemonkey.com, as I couldn't find any Mantis Warrior transfers I liked, and I was not about to go paint the same logo 7 times.
Lazy.
Shut up, I'm not lazy. Just efficient. Sticking it on, it's now into the backpack. I grabbed a Mark 6 Horus Heresy pack and attached it, making sure the shoulder pad doesn't rub up against it. I went back to the tactical squad kit, grabbing a Mark 6 studded shoulder pad from the sprue as well. Now for the helmet. I actually got the new Space Marine helmet pack recently with the new Titus release, and it comes with a few 40k scale Mark 6 helmets, so I snipped one off and stuck it to the model. Time for the cape. I've had this cape from Castellan Crow since my Doomslayer video, and I couldn't find a use for it there, but I can now. It still has the ammo belt in the mold of the cape, so after a lot, and I mean a lot of scraping and hobby surgery, with Tamiya spent to smooth it out, it was finally flush. Now to make it fit, I cut into it with my snips so that it sits higher on the model. After a lot of scraping and smoothing with my now dull knife, it finally sat flush against the model's back. I gave the area where the ammo belt used to be a coat of sprue goo for good measure, just to ensure it's completely smooth. Finally, the cape was stuck into the model. He looks so cool, but now he needs accessories. Going back to the tactical squad, I grabbed a big set of 2 pouches, sticking it to his hip, and from the same kit, stuck 2 purity seals to his power pack. That's him done. He already looks so cool, but now it's time for the base. I'm using Milliput, which is a 2-part epoxy similar to green stuff, but is way harder when dry. A little side note here, you should probably use gloves when you do this, but I'm an idiot so I didn't. I mold it in my hands and shape it using some soft clay modeling tools into a rock for him to stand on. These tools are very useful as they have soft but firm tips, and a few of them also have small metal balls on the backside for creating fine cracks or cuts. I would recommend always slightly wetting these with water, as Milliput tends to stick to everything and water makes it less likely to stick. Using the tools, I slowly give it shape, making it slope upwards and creating a big indent in the rock. Finally, I push the mini's feet into the Milliput before it dries. This predetermines his position, allowing me to stick him easily later. Since I have a lot of Milliput left over, I make another 2 bases for future minis. For the first base, I'm leaving a gap between the rocks for the swampy water to flow. and for the second, I'm just making a single rock in the center for the Marine to balance on. Next up is another veteran, the Heavy Gunner. For a long time, I've held on to a torso piece from the old Mark III Space Marine kit, waiting for the right time to use it, and now feels like the right time. I clipped off a Mark VI leg to go with it. I then grabbed the Scout Squad sprue for the Heavy Bolter. I'll need to clip these arms off as they're bare, and I don't think it makes much sense for the Heavy to be unarmored in any way. After cleaning and sticking the gun pieces together, I go on the hunt for some arms from the Tactical Squad. Deciding on a pair, I clipped and scraped them into the desired shape for him to be holding the gun. Finally, both arms are attached. And yeah, that looks good, although there is a gap. I'll have to fill that in with some more sainted sprue goo. Yeah, that looks great, like he was always holding it. Now because of the squatting pose of the legs, if I just attach the torso straight on, he will stand noticeably shorter than the rest of the squad, so I need him to stand taller. To combat this, I grab some green stuff, rolling it into a ball and putting it where the torso is going to go. This will make him stand slightly taller, although I am very impatient and didn't want to wait for the green stuff to dry before I worked on him more. To solve this issue, I decided to pin the legs to the torso. This cannot go wrong in any way. First, I drill into the legs, before clipping a brass rod to size and sticking it in with superglue. Then I very messily drill a massive hole into the torso where I estimated the brass rod would go. Long story short, it was incorrect. After a lot of cutting, drilling, and adjusting the angle of the rod, it finally fit in place naturally. It's alright though, my terrible hobby practices won't be visible once the mini's done. I again attach a Mantis Warriors shoulder pad, and then I take a backpack from the Eliminators kit. Alright, I know it's technically not period accurate, but I think I can get away with it due to the fabric, and that it also looks similar to a Mark VII backpack. Speaking of Mark VII, I decapitated a helmet from the tactical sprue again, and due to the brass rods slightly sticking out, I have to clip his neck off to fit, and he looks stumpy.
Like he has no neck.
Which is technically true. To solve this, I grabbed some green stuff again, rolling it into multiple little balls before flattening them and stacking them like pancakes. Maybe just a little bite. This will act as a new neck, mimicking the environment seal in the joints of a Space Marine armor. After sticking the pancakes I didn't eat and positioning the head, it looks great. I'm sure once painted it will blend in seamlessly. Time for the accessories! I snip a leather pouch off the new Sterngard veteran kit and glue it to the booty. Next, I clip a roll of blankets? Tents? Whatever it is, it's from the Scout Squad kit, and I stick it onto his backpack, and it makes him look more utilitarian, and it also makes his frame look larger. I experimented with adding a cable from his Heavy Bolter with leftover green stuff, but decided against it. It just looks a bit naff. Instead, I just add more pouches to his waist, and a pair of grenades to his shoulder. I chose to put him on the base with the water flowing between the rocks, positioning his legs so that he's straddled over the river. He looks so cool. I'm really liking how the squad is going so far. Now for a regular Marine. This one will be an Assault Intercessor Grenadier. God, I'll be saying Intercessor a lot in this video. He will be equipped with a chainsword and heavy bolt pistol, but he has to read like he can chuck grenades at any moment. I will be playing him on the table after all. Let's get started. Same as before, I grab a pair of legs from the tactical kit, this time Mark VII. Now to help him read like a grenadier, I wanted him to have a strap of grenades across his chest. Luckily, I still have a few chest pieces from the old Space Marine Assault Squad laying around. The jetpack straps from this old kit will act as a grenade belt. After sticking his legs and torso together, it's time for the arms. I take his left arm and chainsword from the tactical kit, attaching them so it makes a swinging pose, like he's about to cleave someone in two. For his right arm though, I wanted to take it from the Scout Squad. The fabric covering over the one arm will again show the guerrilla aspect of this squad. I know the pistol's not period accurate and I'll be back to replace it later on. I take a backpack from the tacticals and stick it on along with a Mantis Warrior shoulder pad. For the helmet, I got a set of Mark IV helmets, again from Pop Goes the Monkey. I really love the design of these helmets, and I feel like the aesthetic fits the Mantis Warriors very well. Especially the slanted faceplates these ones have, they look very bug-like. Right, he looks like an Assault Intercessor. Now to make him a Grenadier. I snip off 2 pairs of grenades, some frag and some crack. These came from the tactical squad again. As planned, I stick him to the chest, and it looks great. I then gave him a pistol holster from the scouts and 2 leather pouches from the tacticals to cover his booty. Anyway, to help give the chainsword the illusion of motion, I take more tactical bits, this time purity seals, and place them on the chainsword, angling them in a way to convey the fact the chainsword is swinging forward. After this, I put him on the base with a single rock, and that's him done. He looks cool too. Oh, and before I forget, I'll change his bolt pistol up for a chaos one? No, look, see, I scraped off the chaos markings. It's a regular bolt pistol, see? Whew, alright. What's next? I'll be making the bases again. Since I've already talked about this process and it's not too interesting, let's go into a short summary of the lore of the Mantis Warriors. The Mantis Warriors are a successor chapter of the Marauders, themselves being successors of the White Scars. They specialized in guerrilla tactics and ambush warfare, striking quickly before the enemy could react. Despite this though, the Mantis Warriors held honor in high regard, willing to go against the Imperium itself to uphold their oaths to their brother chapters. They were charged with the protection of the Endymion Cluster, which is comprised of 20 systems, and is located within the Maelstrom Zone. This area was of great strategic importance, and was constantly plagued by pirates, Xenos, and the forces of chaos. For a long time they guarded this section of the galaxy alone, becoming a very isolated chapter, with little recorded history. This would end when they were declared to join the Maelstrom Warders, made up of the Astral Claws and the Lamenters. They were now tasked with working alongside these two chapters to suppress the Maelstrom, a tear in space preventing its forces from spreading into the wider Imperium. Soon the Badab War began, and keeping their oath to the Astral Claws, the Mantis Warriors joined the Secessionists alongside the Lamenters and Executioners. Soon fighting broke out, with the Mantis Warriors being involved in one of the earliest conflicts in the war, when the Mantis Warriors opened fire upon the Firehawks chapter and captured one of their ships. Though they had early victories, that would soon come to an end. They would face the Carcharodons chapter, who would intentionally attack civilian populations, drawing the Mantis Warriors out into the open to defend their people. The Mantis Warriors were absolutely decimated, being trapped in the Endymion Cluster, forced to fight for their lives until the end of the war. After the war, they were granted mercy, being assigned to a penitent crusade for 100 years. Their chapter master was also imprisoned for the rest of his life. As said, this is just a short summary of their lore. If you want a longer, more in-depth video, I'd recommend Westhammer's video on the Badab War, or Arbiter Ian and the Remembrancers videos on the Mantis Warriors. Back to the minis! Now I'm going to make an Intercessor gunner with a Stalker bolt rifle. As usual, I take the legs from the tactical kit, this time Mark 6 legs. This guy will have a grenade launcher under his bolt rifle. To achieve this, I'll be relieving a launcher from a gun in the Primaris Intercessor's kit, carefully clipping it off and trimming it to fit on a classic bolter. Speaking of, I grab one from the tactical sprue and cut the grip off, smoothing the surface for the launcher to stick to. Finally, I glue it on, but there's a huge gap between the magazine and the launcher from where I cut the grip off. To fix this, I cut a bit of random sprue into a cuboid shape and stick it into the gap to fill the space. It doesn't look great, but it covers the empty space, and I'll place something over it later to mask the ugliness. My impatience screams as I have no choice but to wait for the gun to dry, or risk ruining the drying plastic. As such, I move over to work on the chest. Since this is another grenadier-like character, I follow the design principle of the chest harness, gathering another jump pack chest, and gluing the torso together to the legs. Now for the arms. I want him to be holding the bolter in one hand pointed at the enemy, with his other hand holding a grenade. As such, I grab a scout squad pointing arm for his right side. I clip the pointy hand off for the gun to go. I slightly trim the part of the arm that would connect to the torso to give it more of an angle, pointing the gun further to the right. I stick the arm onto the torso and then the gun to the arm. As planned, I take a left arm from the tacticals, putting it on the torso and attaching a hand holding a grenade. Now for the Mantis Warrior shoulder again. Then I attach a simple Mark 7 shoulder, backpack, and helmet with a little camera on it. The same as last time, I took a selection of grenades from the tacticals and stuck them to the harness, but also to the side of the gun, along with a purity seal, masking the ugly makeshift bit I stuck there from earlier. Time to make the bolter more stalkery. I steal a scope from the new Sternguard veterans and cut the iron sights off the bolter and smooth it out before attaching the scope. I then choose a base for him, and there, he looks so cool. Now for a normal Intercessor. This guy will have a Stalker bolt rifle. As before, I took legs from the tactical sprue. This one is a Mark 7. I also took an Aquila torso and glued it onto his body. Since this is going to be a Stalker bolt rifle, I'll be clipping the iron sights off this bolter too, but I'll be putting a silencer on it. After scraping the sights off, I take a scope from the tactical sprue and stick it on. To make the silencer, I took a Grey Knights Interceptor Squad sprue and cut these antennae off the backpack. This will act nicely as a silencer. I then cut the current barrel off the bolter and smoothed the surface before sticking the silencer on. I then snipped off a power pack and arms from the tactical sprue to hold the gun. Nothing too special here, just some simple arms and a backpack. Now the shoulder pads again, and a Mark 7 helmet. I accessorized him with a purity seal and some pouches. Awesome. On to the next.
In the grim darkness of the far future, there is only Painted for Battle. By Azuri's Minis. Marnius Calgar stomps to war, screaming a battle cry that would send any sane mind to flee. By Miniature Painter Owl. Chapter Master Volk Grimfang of the Snow Wolves angles his shoulder-mounted bolter towards his target. Wielding an axe the size of a man, would you dare face him? If you want your miniatures featured on next Painted for Battle, cast them over to the Azuri's Minis Instagram. Back to the video.
Assault Intercessor this time. You know the drill. Tactical legs, Mark 6 this time, and I choose an Aquila chest piece, sticking it on. I want this guy to have both arms with no armor, just fabric. Did he volunteer to have less armor, or do his brothers just hate him? As such, both arms will be coming from the Scout Squad sprue. First the chainsword, next the bolt pistol. He'll have it raised and ready to fire. I attach the bolt pistol arm and slightly scrape at the joint in the chainsword arm to give it a better angle for attachment. For the backpack, I grab a Horus Heresy Mark 6 pack to match the legs. Don't say I was never consistent.
You are never consistent.
Next for the Mantis Warrior shoulder pad. I again had to clip at the chainsword arm as the shoulder was too pronounced and would make the shoulder pad stick out too much. There we go. And for the next shoulder pad, a blank Mark 6 from the tactical squad. See Titus, I can be consistent. Now to attach a Mark 4 helmet. Accessory time again. Another Scout Squad pistol holster, and I replace his pistol with another Chaos one off screen. And he's done. Now time for the captain.
Speaking of captains,
Oh, here we go.
you are aware I am a captain now, and yet you haven't honored me with a kit review? Why is that?
Well, if you want an honest review, too many mold lines, 7 out of 10.
Come now, it can't be that bad. By the throne!
Anyway, on to the captain. I want this guy to be ornate, since he's a captain. He'll also be equipped with the usual plasma pistol, power fist, wombo combo. I actually still have some legs from the old Sternguard veteran kit, which I miss very dearly. Anyway, the loincloth and cool decorations will work very well at making this guy stand out. After cleaning the leg up, I grabbed the Vox Grill chest plate from the tacticals, which I was saving for this guy specifically. I have 2 power fists I could use. One is a classic power fist, which I've had for a very long time. If I had to guess, I'd say it's from the old Jump Pack Marine kit. The other is from the new Sternguard veteran kit, which is the one I go for as I like the dimensions and sculpt slightly better. I'll stick that on later. For now, I take the plasma pistol from the tacticals. I really want to do a glow effect with this when I paint it. I attach it to a tactical arm and scrape away at the arm joint again to adjust its position, so he's pointing it slightly more to his right instead of straight forward. It just makes the pose so much more dynamic. Now for the power fist. Since it's scaled for the modern Primaris Marines, I'll need to do a bit of plastic surgery on it to make it look natural. Cutting at the shoulder to make it sit slightly higher up on the body and also to adjust its angle so the power fist is out to his left, splayed out like he's trying to balance or readying it for attack. Awesome, I'll just cover the mangled shoulder with the Mantis Warrior pad. Another one of my abominations, covered up. The other shoulder pad comes from the Primaris Sternguard veteran sprue. It's one of them raised fancy shoulder pads, and I didn't think it would fit very well with the regular shoulder pad, so I painstakingly cut the raised part off and smooth it out to resemble a Mark 7 shoulder pad. I'm really liking how he's coming along. For a more decorated backpack, I grabbed one of the Grey Knight sprues. This one doesn't have those pylons coming out of it, but it does have some cool decorations. Nice. I stuck a holster from the Scout Squad to his leg too. There's actually a strap under here around his leg. The holster really looks like it belongs there. I decide to go for a Mark 5 helmet. Again, from Pop Goes the Monkey. I really love this helmet design, and I think it also fits the bug-like aesthetic in a weird way. Since he's the only one in the squad with it, he'll stand out even more as well. Time for the Iron Halo. I take this little one from the tacticals again. This is actually an important detail as it's a gameplay mechanic for the captain and kill team. As a final accessory, I attach a dual purity seal to his left shoulder pad. And that's him done. He looks so cool, and I can't wait to paint all these guys and field them as my first proper kill team. Wow, they have come out so well. I've used a lot of techniques I'm new to, but I'm so glad I tried them out, as they complement the figures so well. My favourite has to be the captain, or the heavy gunner, but I can't wait to play these guys in the upcoming event. Thank you so much for watching. If you want your mini featured in the next Painted for Battle, follow and give me a message on Instagram at AzariesMinis40k. I'll see you next time.